Good morning, friends. Welcome back to Redbird Acres. If you are new, my name is Jilly. If you are not new, thank you for coming back. Ignore this disaster behind me. We are reorganizing some things in the house. We got a new TV stand. I'm reorganizing the kitchen, got some new kitchen gadgets, all that, so it's kind of a disaster in here. But today we are going to make chicken and dumplings. And we're going to do it with chickens we raised ourselves. Now, we made kind of a big boo-boo when we started raising meat chickens. We got crossbreeds. They're dual purpose, black Jersey Giants. They lay eggs. They are good as meat chickens. However, they take a lot longer to bulk up, have enough meat in order to butcher and be ready for them. We decided we didn't want to keep them through the winter. We didn't have the infrastructure to keep them safe. So we decided to go ahead and butcher them in October. And unfortunately, they ended up being rather small. I have taken two of our meat chickens, and here's one of them. You can see they're quite small and they're very drippy because I have them in the sink. I forgot to take them out of the freezer last night, so I am submerging them in water in the sink so that they will thaw a little bit faster. And then we're gonna make chicken and dumplings out of the entire bird. I'm super excited about this. It's gonna be the first time we've used any of our chickens for cooking, so I'm super excited about it. And then of course we get the bones and everything else to make chicken broth later, so I'm super excited about that. So I'm going to take you step by step how I do it. I've never made chicken and dumplings before, so this is going to be all new. Join me while I experiment and see what we come up with. Okay, so I have gone ahead and cleared off a space on my counter. I have sharpened my knife. My birds are defrosted. This is a warning if you don't like seeing dead birds and processed birds all together. So here are our chickens. They're pretty little. There's several fine hairs on these that I'm gonna have to remove. So I'm going to work on that, and I'm going to take the necks off as well, and I'm going to save those for chicken broth. So I'm going to get started, and I pulled out two birds. They're both about 3 pounds a piece-ish. Going to get them all cut up and put into a stock pot, and then we'll get started on our soup. I got those all chopped up. So now what I'm doing is chopping up 2 onions. I would normally just use one large one, but these onions are a little small. So I'm going to chop 2 up, and here I'll show you the size of my onion. They're kind of small, so I'm going to use 2. Chop them up and throw those in the pan with the chicken, and I'll show you that in just a moment. These onions are so strong. It's insane. It is absolutely insane. I'm still crying. Okay. We don't have any regular carrots, but we have 2 bags of baby carrots, so I'm going to give these a little rough chop and throw those in as well. I would normally put celery in here for that base flavor, but we don't have any, so carrots and onions it is. So here's what we've got. My stock pot is pretty full. I have this one, and then I have one that's about this big. So I don't really have a medium-sized one. I'll have to get one. I'm going to add some poultry seasoning, but I don't really have poultry seasoning as it's known as poultry seasoning. So I'm just going to throw stuff in. One of the reasons I don't have poultry seasoning is because I absolutely detest thyme. Regular poultry seasoning has a decent amount of thyme, and I don't like it. So What I just threw in was some ground sage, some marjoram, just a little bit of nutmeg, and some rosemary. I love rosemary and sage, so that's perfect for me. And I'm gonna throw in, that's a broken bay leaf. I don't want that to go in. I never find it and I'll bite down on it later. I'm gonna throw in 2 good size bay leaves since it's a pretty good size pot. Now I have 2 quarts or 8 cups of my home canned chicken broth. And I'll tell you, I'm glad I'm starting to process these chickens so that I can save the bones for a big stock of chicken broth soon. Because I don't have very many quarts left. I have a bunch of pints, but I don't have very many quarts of chicken broth left. So we're just gonna, we're gonna splash me and pour this all over so it's a nice full pot. We're gonna turn on the heat and move my kettle out of the way. And we're gonna bring this to a boil. I'm also gonna get a lid. I'm gonna put a lid on this because I don't want any of this liquid to evaporate. So I want to save that by throwing a lid on there. So I'm gonna do that as well. And this is gonna come to a boil, and then I'm gonna turn it down and let it simmer for about an hour probably, given how much chicken I have in there. This came to a boil pretty quickly. And now it's got that nice, beautiful simmer going on. So we are gonna let this sit and just cook all up. And I'm telling you, it smells amazing in here already. So this has been simmering for a little while. And I started taking all of the pieces of chicken out. I double checked the chicken. It is fully cooked. And even if it wasn't, we're gonna cut all of this up and put it back into the soup anyway. So I'm taking all of this out. I'm gonna let it cool just a little bit so that I can pull all of the meat off of the bones, take the skin off. I am going to save the bones for chicken broth. All right, you remember how I told you we made boo-boos with our meat chickens and got the dual purpose, and so they were kind of skinny? Yeah. So this bowl right here, it's kind of a smaller bowl, is all of the meat that I got off of 2 chickens. 2, you guys. Now, granted, I got a nice big gallon-sized baggie of bones that I can cook down later. But yeah. It'll be enough for our soup. It's more than enough for our soup. But I guess now I know why we got 30 of them to start with. Because I'm going to have to use 2 every time I want to cook a meal. It's okay. Learning experiences. We're learning how this works. Figuring out farm life together. Alright, it's about an hour before dinner. I am getting the dumplings started, and no lie, you guys, I am so tired I almost forgot to record this part. I was like putting everything in the bowl and I was like, what am I missing? Oh, wait a minute. Here's my bowl. In here I have 1 3/4 cups of flour. I did read a comment that some of the people said that the dumplings were bland. It called for like a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I put in maybe like a 1/2 teaspoon, see if that would help. 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder, and now we're gonna get some shortening. I have a nice big tub of shortening, and we need 1/3 cup. I think there's like some air in there, so I think that's about 1/3 cup. And yes, I'm putting my fingers right in here because I'm the only one that's eating this, me and my husband, so there we go. And then you're supposed to mash this together with a fork. So we're going to combine all of this until it's fully combined. And then once this is combined, we add some milk. So we're going to start adding some milk to this. You're going to get it so it's like these little pea-sized bits of flour. And they say up to 3/4 of a cup of milk. Just adding a very little bit of at a time. So I'm not even going to measure it out, because I'm going to need as much as I'm going to need, right? So why bother measuring it out if I'm just going to go by the look of it, you know? That's my motto anyway. Obviously need a little bit more. I'm probably putting in, I'd say, about 2 tablespoons at a time. It's about 1/8 of a cup if you don't have a tablespoon. And honestly, now that this is starting to come together, I might just use my hands again. And I might just add just a splash more. That was maybe a tablespoon. And then we'll see how this holds up. So it's a pretty solid dough, but you don't want it to be sticky. That's what I was reading. But you do want it to like all come together. So if you pick it up and do this, it shouldn't completely fall apart. So I might add just 1 more teaspoon and call it good. Now, if you don't have milk, or if you have a milk allergy, you could use oat milk. You could use half and half. Obviously not if you have an allergy, but this is coming together pretty well. I would say total, I probably used 1/3 of a cup of milk. Go right on the counter here because I cleaned this off a minute ago. So I'm just kneading it a little bit, back and forth. Pull back, push forward. Turn, pull back, push forward. And this is just making sure everything's incorporated. Let's get this stuff out of the way, and now we're going to roll it out. Yeah, I still don't even need a floured surface right now. So you're gonna roll them out pretty thin. This is still breaking, but I don't feel comfortable adding more milk or more flour, so we're just gonna work with this. We're gonna figure it out. So these are traditional dumplings. They're not drop dumplings. There are very many different kinds of dumplings. Some people might not call these dumplings. Some people like the biscuit kind of dough dumplings, where it's a little bit more like a drop biscuit. These are old-fashioned dumplings. About 1/8 of an inch, and this is, I don't know if you can see, this is pretty darn thin. I'd say that's about 1/8 of an inch. I'm gonna start cutting. I'm gonna test one of these. So I just dropped that into my soup. I'm going to test it out, see how it comes out. So I turned up my heat a little bit, dropped it in. Ah, this one broke. No. I'm going to start dropping in my dumplings. Now I took out all of the meat and the veggies. Those are still not in here. Those will go in after the 15 minutes of cooking the dumplings. And then I'm also going to thicken this up a little bit. Okay, these have been going for about 12 minutes or so. So I'm going to throw in my chicken and veggies. I'm going to throw that back in, hopefully without harming myself. And I did pull another one out to try. So we're going to leave this on a low simmer to heat up, and Jake should be home any minute. But we want to make sure the chicken and the veggies are all thoroughly heated through. And I'm going to try so much better. Leaving it a few more minutes, so much better. Oh my gosh, that's going to be so good. We have one more step to do though. Okay, so I've let this simmer, and now the last part is I'm going to add 4 tablespoons of cornstarch that have been dissolved in water, because I want this nice and thick and creamy. I'm just going to add it in real slow, making sure to stir it up. Make sure we get all of that in there. And then I'm going to let this sit and simmer until that starts to thicken just a little bit. And here is our end result. I took a taste. It's absolutely delicious. I'm pretty excited about it. It's like 20 degrees outside. So this is going to be warm and filling and just so delicious. I hope Jake likes it. Thanks for hanging out with me today. If I used any products that I got on Amazon, I will link them below. Please remember to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time on Redbird Acres.